Hello everyone, my name is Vicky and I would like to welcome you on our training webinar, An Introduction to our 2019 BrightPay software. So this training webinar is both suitable for those of you who are using BrightPay already and simply wish to familiarize yourself with the new 2019 processes, and also for those of you who will be using the BrightPay software for the very first time. As you can see from the agenda on screen, the sequence I'll be taking you through will begin with how to firstly get started with the 2019 software, followed by showing you the systematic steps you will need to complete to process your payroll each pay period. I'll then finish by showing you some of the additional processes you also need to be aware of in line with the introduction of POAE modernization. So to get started. So the very first thing you will need to do to get started is to download and install the 2019 BrightPay software from our website. Now this is a quick and easy procedure, and once completed will place an icon on your desktop for you to access the software going forward. To speed things up today, I already have the software installed, so I'll go into the software now for you. Okay. Now, just one thing to point out in that when you do install the software, it will always install as a trial version. If you look at the blue triangle at the top here, it will state trial version for you. So if you have purchased a license key from us for tax year 2019, simply click on Upgrade License at the bottom of this screen and enter your license key here to activate your software. Now, if you were using BrightPay last year and have 2018 employer files, then you can seamlessly bring across your employer and employee details from the previous tax year. To do so, all you need to do is click on Import Employers at the bottom of the starting screen and select the option Import from BrightPay 2018. The software will do its best to open the folder in which your employer files for the previous tax year are located, which my machine has done here now. If not, just browse to where your 2018 employer files are. And all you need to do then is just select the company or companies you wish to import. To import one company, just highlight it and click on Open. To import more than one company, hold down the Shift key on your keyboard and select the companies you wish to bring across and click on Open, and that will import all the companies you've selected at the same time. So I'm just going to bring across one. I'm going to click on Open, and that is my 2018 employer file brought across into 2019 successfully. If you have password protection on the 2018 file, then it will be the same password that you use in 2019 to access the payroll file. Okay. If you are new to the software, then there are a few options available to you for setting up your employer and employees. First of all, I just bring to your attention here, if I click on the Import Employers button, if you used one of the softwares that you can see on screen here in the previous tax year, then we do have direct import facilities to bring across your employer and employee details from the software that you are using. Okay, so you just select the option applicable to you. At this time of year, you're likely to be doing start at beginning of the tax year here, and that will bring across your basic employer and employee information for you quite seamlessly. As an alternative to that, you may wish to set up your company from scratch, and to do that, you're going to select Create New Employer. Just click on Next here. Now, BrightPay will now ask you just for you to instruct how you would like to use the software. So, if you're commencing payroll at the start of the tax year, you will select Start at the beginning of the tax year here. You then have the option to select Start part way in the tax year, and also to continue partway in the tax year. And this third option will be used by those of you who are migrating to BrightPay maybe mid-tax year, and you wish to, basically start off from where you had left off in your previous software, so you have payroll records to bring in and year-to-date totals. So that will be the option you choose there. I'm just going to start at the beginning of the tax year here. Click on Next. Okay, you'll then ask for your basic employer information. So your employer registration number and employer name and address. I'm going to just use a little cheat key here. Just change my company name. Okay. And I'm going to click on Next. On the next screen, if you wish to organize your employees into departments, simply enter the department names that you wish to use. Again, my little cheat key has filled some names in already for me. Now, these departments can subsequently be used in your payroll processing and analysis reports once you're in the software. And more departments can be added at a later date if needed. Alternatively, if you don't wish to use departments, you can skip this step by clicking on Next. Then on this screen, you are now asked about your typical employee. Now, these settings will be used as the default when adding a new employee into the software, but can be changed on an individual basis if required. So all you need to do is select the settings that you would like to use as default. Okay, so I'll say that I want my employees to be set to a weekly pay frequency every time I set up a new employee record, that I want their pay method to be check, for example. Okay, and I'm going to click on Next when complete. Now, it is always recommended that you protect your payroll data, and so we do advise setting a password at the prompt here. So I'm going to tick to use a password and enter the password of my choice. Okay, and that password will be needed then every time you access this employer file going forward. I'm now ready to save and finish, and I will now be prompted to save my employer file. Now, you can choose to save this employer file to any location. It just needs to be kept away from your BrightPay installation folder. That's the one requirement. But if you're on a standalone machine, you can simply save this to a location on your C drive. Or if you're in a bureau environment where you have a server or a central location where you save your files to, by all means, save your employer files to somewhere like a server, network, or cloud environment. So I'm just going to click on Save here, and this will now set up my company for me. There we go. Okay. Now, just with PAYE modernization coming into effect, PAYE modernization is introducing two new processes. These are the automated retrieval of revenue payroll notifications for each of your employees from revenue, and the submission of your payroll data each payroll run to revenue. For this two-way communication to take place between BrightPay and revenue systems, your ROS digital certificate will be used. Therefore, the first task you will need to perform in BrightPay before you can commence with your payroll is to add your ROS digital certificate into the software. Now, this is a once-off exercise, and your digital certificate does have to be on the same machine as the software itself. So I'll just guide you through adding in your digital certificate into BrightPay. To do so, you're going to go to the File menu and down to Manage Revenue Certificates. I'm then going to click on Add Certificate. You then need to browse to where your ROS digital certificate is saved. Okay, just locate mine here. Now, if you're struggling to find your ROS digital certificate, it's just worth knowing that the file extension of a digital certificate will either be .p12 or .p12.bac. And if you are struggling to find it, you can always just use your search facility here to perform a search for that file extension. Okay, so I'm going to select my certificate here, click on Open. You then need to enter your certificate password, and this will be the password that you use to log into your ROS account. So I'll just quickly type this in here. Okay. We then advise that you tick the box to remember the password for this certificate so that you don't have to keep entering the certificate password every time you go to make a submission to revenue. I'm going to click on OK. Okay. On the next screen, if I want to change the name of the certificate to make it more identifiable, I can type in a new name here in the field provided. I then need to select my certificate type from the drop-down. Now, this is an employer certificate that I'm adding in, but if you have an agent certificate, you'll simply click on Agent Certificate here, and you have to enter the associated TAME for that agent cert in the field provided. So I'll just switch mine back to Employer Cert here. You can set this certificate to be the default certificate to use across all employer files if you have multiple certificates that you need to add into the software. Then when ready to do so, click on OK. And your digital certificate is now added into the software and will now allow you to retrieve RPNs and submit payroll submissions to revenue. Now, before you can process any payroll, especially obviously if you're brand new to the software, you'll now need to add in your employee records. For those of you who have imported from the previous year, your employee records will already be set up for you in the employees utility. We always recommend, if you have imported data across from either BrightPay 2018 or from another payroll provider for whom we offer an import facility, we do just recommend that you just review each employee record, filling in any gaps, for example, for information that we couldn't bring across, and also to make sure that employee records are still applicable and that all employees that are on your system are active. So yes, just one piece of advice there. Now, if you're brand new to the software, you will have no employee records set up at this stage. And there's a couple of options available to you now to set up your employees. One of the easiest ones is to use the revenue payroll notification to set up your employee records for you. It's particularly useful if you are brand new to the software, and it'll just speed things up for you slightly. To do that, what you can do is go to the File menu, Import Export Data, and download employees from RPN. What happens here is that BrightPay connects to revenue systems, and it will retrieve all available RPNs, and you'll be presented with on screen all employees for whom an RPN has been retrieved, but there are no employee records for them in the software. So I'm just going to select 3 here. Okay, so I'm going to select 3 employees for whom I want to add to my software. Add selected employees. Click on OK. And when I go into the employee utility now, I have employee records for the employees that I selected. Just one thing to note, that when setting up employee records using the RPN, the software can only bring in the information that is included in the RPN. For example, the employee's name, their PPS number, and their revenue information. Okay, so that further manual entry may be required in each employee record for employee information that is not included in the RPN. So for example, the employee's rate of pay, for example, I just want to fill that in here. Their email address. Okay. Bank details, for example, if they're on credit transfer. Okay. Annual leave entitlement, things like that. So if we're going to employment here as well, you might also want to add in the departmental association as well. Okay, so just go through each employee record, filling in again the gaps and popping in the extra information you need there. I'll just click on Save Changes here. Okay. Another way of creating employee records is to actually set them up manually. And to do that, you will simply click on New Employee at the top here on the menu bar and just work through each of the screens, entering the employee's information accordingly. Again, I'll just use a little cheat key here just to fill in some employee information here. So just work through each of the screens, etc., filling in everything required. Okay, and I'm going to click on Save there. And you repeat that process to add more employee records in this manner. Just with POA modernization, again, just something to bring to your attention. When you set up employee records for the very first time, and also if you're importing from the previous tax year, if I just pop into, revenue details here, all employees will be placed on emergency tax basis, and that's under POE modernisation regulation. This is because you need to retrieve the employee's tax credit and cut-off information using the revenue payroll notification. Okay, so employees will start off on emergency tax basis until such time that you retrieve the information from revenue systems there. Okay, so just a change from last year. Okay, once your employee records are set up, you are now ready to process your payroll. So I'm now going to go into the payroll utility. At the start of the payroll year, you will be asked to set up your weekly schedule. BrightPay needs two pieces of information from you. First of all, what your first pay date is going to be for the pay frequencies that you are using, and also the period, I suppose, you're paying for. So my employees are set up on weekly here. So I'm just being asked to just set my first weekly pay date and to specify the week I'm paying for. So I'll leave that as the 4th of January. Often with weekly payroll, it's quite common to be paying a week in arrears, so that date can be changed to be the week before, for example. That's perfectly fine. Okay, I'll just keep mine simple. I'll just keep it in line with my pay date. It's always recommended as well, just preview your pay dates before locking them down, and just make sure that you've got enough pay periods for the whole year there. Okay, and I'm then going to press on continue. Okay, and that's my schedule set up. So I'm now ready to process my periodic payroll. Now, the very first step every pay period is that you must retrieve the latest revenue payroll notification information for each of your employees from revenue. And this is to ensure that the most up-to-date tax credits and cut-off points are applied to each employee's pay. Okay. Each pay period, you'll be given a prompt within the payroll utility. Here you can see it at the top here. And you'll be given that prompt to tell you that you need to retrieve the latest RPN for each of your employees and to apply any updates. So this is my first task every pay period. So I'm going to click on Update Employees on the menu bar, and I'm going to check for and retrieve RPNs now. BrightPay will automatically connect to revenue systems and retrieve all available RPNs for you. Okay, I'm just going to click on continue there. Okay. And it will do a matching exercise basically. So it will then look at your current employee data and match it with the information which is within the RPNs. So I can see here that it's telling me that one of my employees that I have set up in my payroll, their information is different now. So what's been retrieved in the RPN is different. So I now need to apply those new corrected updates. So I'm going to click on Apply Selected Updates here. Okay. The RPN as well is telling me that I've got 3 employees for whom an RPN has been retrieved, but they're not in my payroll. So I can add them into my payroll if need be. So I'm going to add them there. Okay. And then in the up-to-date section, this is telling me which employees match what's in the RPNs that have been retrieved. So often that might be the case each pay period if there isn't too much change to employees' tax credits and cut-off point information. So yes, so there's no further action required if employees are in the up-to-date section here. So I'm just going to close out of this screen. Okay, so once all your necessary updates have been applied, I can now return to my payroll screen here, and I'm now ready to enter my employees' pay. So the current period is always displayed at the top of the screen here. If you hover over your blue tiles, and you'll see that I'm in week 1 of my payroll, and it's for week ending Friday, the 4th of January. Okay. If you're new to the software, employees here will be listed in what we call a summary view. It's really a payroll preview for you, where you can see all your employees at a glance. We have default columns on this summary view, but if you would like to customize this view to suit your own needs, you can do so by going to the summary button on the menu bar and choose summary columns. So for example, if you pay your staff by the hour, you may want to just see total hours worked here on this screen just as a final check. So you can indicate that you would like total hours worked to be displayed here as well. Also, maybe if you just want to show if they're a starter or a leaver in a pay period, and click OK. And that will then place those additional column items on your summary view for you. Okay. So to edit a particular employee's pay, simply click on the employee name. Now, for those of you who use BrightPay in the previous tax year, there's no change to how you enter your employee pay information in 2019. So it all remains the same process. For those of you new to the software, various things can be added onto the pay slip here. I'll quickly just run through an overview with you. So if the employee is paid a basic gross each pay period, you simply enter it in the field provided here. So I'll say that their pay is 600. Now, when you see a spanner symbol, this means that there's extra functionality that you can perform on the pay item that you've entered. If I click the spanner here, you can see here this is where I can perform a net to gross, where I can enter an annual salary, and for the software to then convert it back to a periodic amount for me. Or it can also facilitate a mid-period pay rise here as well. So especially if you're on monthly payroll, somebody's been promised a pay rise from a certain point in the month, that will allow you to split the pay accordingly in the pay period. Okay. So that's for entering a basic gross. If an employee is hourly paid, I'll just select the next person here. Okay. I can add their hourly rate onto the pay slip here and just enter the number of standard hours that they have worked in the pay period. You can add further hourly rates by clicking on the add button here. Again, okay. And what you can do as well with the standard rate, if you click on their standard rate, you can then convert it into, say, for example, time and a half, time and a third. You'll see all the various options here for you, or to enter a multiplier of your choice. Okay, so I can say that maybe he's done 2 or 3 hours there at double time. Okay, and enter the number of hours accordingly. And you can add unlimited pay items as required to the pay slip. Okay, if the employee is paid a daily rate, that is facilitated here also. So I'm going to click on add and add a daily pay amount here. So I can say that she's done 5 days this week. Okay. And again, that daily rate can be converted into the various multipliers as required. Okay. To add more pay items, simply click on add. You can have a mix of gross, hourly pay, daily pay on the pay slip. It doesn't matter. The software also facilitates piece of work pay. So for employees paid by a unit rather than a kind of a salary or an hourly rate, you can add piece of work rates into the software as well. Okay. To set up additions on an employee's pay slip, you simply click on add in the additions and deductions section on the employee's pay slip. We have a number of preset additions already programmed into the software. So if you're looking for one of the preset ones, it suits your needs, you simply select from the listing and enter in the relevant amount there. If you wish to add an addition for which there isn't a preset option, then you can set up an addition type of your own. Simply click on add new addition type here. Type in a name for the addition, indicate what's allowed and what the allowed deductions are, enter amount here, and you can set a repetition as well. So whether it's to be just on this payslip only or to repeat until manually removed. You can also add this addition that you're setting up to be, I suppose, what we call a global item, so that it can be used by any employee, or if it's just specific to this employee, just leave this box unticked. Okay, and I'm going to click on Save there. Again, where there's a spanner symbol, that just means there's additional functionality for the pay item. So, for example, you can instruct whether the addition is to be pensionable or not by ticking or unticking the button provided here for pension scheme deductions. And you can also set the repetition of an addition. So you can state whether it's just to be for this pay period only, to repeat until manually removed, or to repeat up to a certain date. So, for example, if you want this the commission to be to the end of January, you can select that option here, and at that point, there on afterwards, that addition will be removed automatically for you. Okay. You can also reorder additions. So I can say I just want to move that one down and have mileage above it. Okay, and yeah, so you can tidy up the payslip to suit your needs there. Similarly, deductions work exactly the same way. So again, if you click on Add in the Additions and Deductions section, if it's to add a deduction that's already preset in the software, simply select from the listing, or you can add new deduction type here. Okay, as an example, we'll use Lotto. Okay, again, just tick or untick the allowed deductions, enter an amount accordingly, and also set the repetition. Okay, and whether you want to save that deduction for use by all employees. I'm going to click on Save here, and that will add the deduction as well. And again, the same options are available in the edit facility here, where you can say whether it's to be pensionable or not, for example, and also to set repetition and to reorder. Okay. Finally, just on the employee's payslip, you can add a note. You can add either an employee note or an employer note, or both. An employee note will appear on the employee's payslip. The employer note will simply appear in your software. So I can add here. Just as an example, and that will then print on the employee's payslip for you. Okay. Now, once you've completed an employee's payslip, you can just click on back to the summary view here at the left-hand side, and then select the next employee and work your way through each employee accordingly. Or alternatively, you can just select an employee from the listing down the left-hand side to access their payslip. So when all your employees' pay is entered for the pay period, you are now ready to finalize your pay slips. That's the next step in your payroll process. To do so, you're going to just click on Finalize Payslips on the menu bar and click Finalize Payslips again. And this screen will now confirm how many pay slips have to be finalized here. It will also tell you what their pay date is set to be. Should you wish to amend the pay date for an employee, simply click on the little pencil symbol to the right of the employee name, and this will allow you to change the pay date to a different one as required, and then to press on Save to save it. Alternatively, if you wish to batch change a pay date for a number of employees, you just select the employees for whom you wish to change and select the option Batch Set the Pay Date. And again, just enter the pay date you wish to change the selected employees to there. Okay. So when ready to finalize, simply click on OK. Okay. And you'll see now that a tick will be displayed next to an employee's name down the left-hand side to indicate that their payslip for this period has now been finalized. Now, the next step. So from the 1st of January 2019, employers will be required to submit their payroll data to Revenue every time they perform a pay run. And most importantly, this periodic submission will need to be received by Revenue on or before payment is made to the employees. This periodic submission of your payroll data to Revenue is known as the payroll submission request. After finalizing a pay period, you will see that BrightPay will automatically create the payroll submission request required by revenue for you, and it will be brought to your attention on the menu bar here that the submission is outstanding. So to now submit your pay data to revenue, you're going to click on Submit to Revenue and Send PSRs to Revenue. Okay. Now, by default, all finalized employees will be marked for inclusion in the submission to revenue. And so if you wish to include all employees in the PSR, you simply click on Continue. Now, alternatively, if you only wish to submit a PSR at this point for some of your employees, you can untick any employees who you do not wish to include and click Continue. And these employees can subsequently be included in a separate PSR for the same period, but always ensuring that this submission to revenue is performed on or before payment is made to these employees. That's just one thing to be aware of there. Now I'm going to include all my employees, so I'm going to press Continue here. Okay. So what you'll be given here is a summary of your pending submission to revenue, and it will be displayed in a readable format on screen for you, which can be printed or exported or emailed as required. What this summary will give you is a kind of a summary of the submission details at the top, and then an individual breakdown for each employee included in the PSR as well. Okay, so just if you wanted just to do some final checks, for example, make sure everything's okay. When ready to do so, you click on Send to Revenue to submit your payroll data to revenue, and you'll see there that my 7 employees have been accepted by revenue there. Okay, and close out there. So that is my pay period workflow completed there. I've retrieved my RPNs, I finalized my pay slips, I've submitted to revenue. The next step then of your payroll process will be to just distribute your pay slips. Should you wish to print your pay slips, all you need to do is click the Print Payslip button on the menu bar here. On the left-hand side, all you need to do is select the employees for whom you wish to print the pay slips, and you'll find several options here for selecting employees. Here by clicking Select By, and you can do by department, payment method, whether they have an email address, for example, or not. So you can use the filtering options there. Okay. You then need to just choose your payslip design from the drop-down menu in the center here. Payslips can be printed on plain A4 paper, that's perfectly fine. Or you can use our BrightPay stationery, which can print 2 per page, or we also do a security payslip as well that seals for you. Okay, there's various options there. Over on the right-hand side, should you wish to customize your pay slips, you can click the Options button. And this facility allows you to add or remove certain information on the pay slip. For example, you may want to include your employer logo if you have one added into the software here, or to remove certain information. For example, you may just not want to show what the payment method is, for example, if your employees know already. I'll just tick to show notes as well. Okay, and I'm going to click on OK. Then when ready to do so, should you just wish to preview the pay slips first, simply click Print Preview, and your employee pay slips will be displayed on screen for you. Then when ready to print, you can just press the Print button to send the pay slips to your printer. Okay. Alternatively, if you would like to email your pay slips, you can do so by selecting the Email Pay Slips button on the menu bar within the Payroll utility. For you to be able to email pay slips, you do need to have your employees' email addresses entered in their employee records. And this utility will then display only those employees for whom an email address has been entered. So I just have the one employee, as you can see here in my test company today. You can also password protect the pay slips as well. Let me just pop out this utility here. Let me go into employees here. So under personal, I have the email address entered. If you go into the HR section of the employee record as well, this is where you enter the password, which will password protect the payslip. So on receipt, the recipient will need to enter the password provided to be able to access and read the payslip that's been sent to them there. Okay. So I just pop back here. So just back into email payslips. Okay. Similarly, with the email payslips utility, you can also customize the payslip by choosing which items you wish to show or not show on the payslip itself. So again, come into options and select your criteria accordingly there. Okay. You then need to enter a reply to email address. And this is so that on receipt by the recipient, that if they want to reply to the email that they've received, and the reply to email address that you enter in the software will be the person who gets the reply. So I'll just use my colleague here. Okay, you can enter a CC address as well as required if you want somebody else to receive a copy of the payslips as well. And then you can just enter a subject for the email. We have some defaults already entered for you, and also the narrative that you want in the body text of the email on receipt. So complete accordingly. Make sure the button's ticked if you wish to password protect the payslips, and when ready to do so, just click on Send Emails. So this is my first time use, so I'm just going to agree to the terms of use, and those emails will now be sent. Now they are quite quick in reaching recipients. At busy periods, we do say just give it up to an hour, just in case, especially the month end is always a busy time for emailing payslips. So do always allow up to an hour, but usually you'll find that within a minute or so, those emails are received by the recipients. So I'll close out of here. So the final step of your pay period process then is to pay your employees. And we have a dedicated reporting facility in BrightPay just to assist you with this. This can be accessed on the menu bar in Payroll under Pay Employees. Okay. Now, for employees whose payment method is cash, we have, first of all, a cash payments report for you. And all employees whose payment method is cash will be displayed on this screen. And this report will show the breakdown of the cash payment to these employees. For employees paid by check, you'll be given a breakdown of their check payments within the check payments tab there that you can see on screen. And again, any employees paid whose payment method is credit transfer, we have the credit transfer breakdown for you by selecting the credit transfer tab here. Now, in real life environment, you will have all the employees' bank details displayed here. Obviously, I'm in a test environment, so I don't have that information to hand, but their sort code, account number, etc. will all be displayed on this screen for you. For employees paid by credit transfer, and if you are authorized to do so by your bank, a bank payment file can be created in BrightPay to upload through your banking software. And this is done by pressing the bank file option here within this utility. To be able to create your bank file, first of all, you do need to have your employer bank details set up in the software, and you do that within the employer utility and bank accounts. Going to just pop in a dummy bank account here. Okay. Okay, obviously you'll be filling this in with your exact information here. I'll just quickly pop in some dummy information here just to demonstrate the bank file. If I pop back into Payroll then, Pay Employees, if I select Credit Transfer here, so I'm just going to click on Bank File here. Okay, click on OK. And all you need to do then is just make sure that you're choosing the right file format and the right bank account. You can set up more than one bank account in the software, so just make sure you're selecting the right one. Ensure that your processing date is correct, and then when ready to do so, click Save. That will then create a bank file which you can save to a location on your computer, and all you do then is log into your banking software and upload into your banking software when required. Okay, now that is all the steps of your payroll process complete. So you'll be retrieving your RPNs, enter your employees' pay information, finalize your pay slips, submit your PSR, distribute your pay slips to your employees, and then pay your employees. One final thing that you may like to do at the end of each pay period is just to generate some reports for your records, and they can be done within the analysis utility within the software. We have a number of preset reports built into the software already for you. I suppose we see them as the most commonly used reports by payroll users, namely the payroll summary, for example, here. So within the saved report section, if I just select payroll summary here, okay, so we have default settings built in already, but you can, of course, just amend those accordingly to suit your needs. So I'm going to run report here, and that report is displayed on screen for you. All reports can be printed, they can be emailed or exported to PDF or to Excel or CSV. Okay, and then you can actually edit them as well. So if you just want to change the parameters, so for example, it could be that I only want the report for this person here. I can add and remove columns as well. I might just want to see what his PPS number is, for example. Click on OK, run report. So you can basically choose your criteria to suit your needs there as well. If you wish to create a report of your own, you can do so by clicking on New Report, selecting the parameters and all the criteria that you want in the report. So for example, I might just want to run a report on PPS numbers. Click on OK, run report, and I have my report there displayed on screen. If you've created a report that you would like to use going forward, you can then save that report. Okay. And you can add it to your saved reports here as well, just for easy access going forward, as and when you need to access it. Okay. Now I'd just like to show you some of the additional processes you need to be aware of in line with the introduction of PAYE modernization. So just to start with, I'd just like to show you then how to process a new starter in the 2019 tax year. So as you may know, from the 1st of January 2019, employers will no longer be required to submit a P45 Part 3 or a P46 to revenue to register a new employee. Instead, to commence a new employment, an employer will now submit a revenue payroll notification or RPN request for the new employee. This will then create the employment on revenue's side, and revenue will then send an RPN response back into the software advising of the tax credits and cutoff points to be applied to the employee's pay. In terms of the employee's start date, this will subsequently be reported to revenue in the first payroll submission request you submit for that employee. So to process a new starter and to fulfill these new requirements in BrightPay, there's two steps involved. And step one is to first set up the new employee record. To do this, you'll do it in the normal manner by going to the Employees utility and clicking on New Employee, okay? And you'll just complete each section accordingly. Again, just to speed things up, I'm just going to use a little cheat key just to fill in some information quickly. So for a new employee starting mid-year, a start date is essential in order to ensure that the employee is added to the payroll in the correct pay period. The employee start date must be entered in the designated field provided in the employment tab here. Okay, so I'm just going to enter a start date here for my employee. Okay. Now, on entering a start date that falls in the current tax year, you'll see now that a starter details section has become visible. This section, as you can see, is, some of the fields are grayed out, and this is because previous employment information, if applicable for the employee, will be brought down in the RPN that you retrieve from revenue. Hence, the employer can no longer fill in this information themselves. Okay, you will see here that if the employee was liable to ASC in the previous employment, then you will need to fill in those figures separately. They don't come through in the RPN, so do so if applicable. Now, under POE modernisation, all employees will be placed on emergency tax basis until such time that they are updated by a revenue payroll notification. So you'll see here that when I go into the revenue details screen for this new employee, you'll notice that they have been set to emergency basis automatically for you. Okay, now in revenue details, it is important to still complete the PRSI section accordingly, making sure the employee is popped on the right PRSI class, and also to complete the other section if applicable. Okay, then once all employee details have been entered, simply click on Save Changes to create the employee record. So that is step 1 completed. Step 2 then is completed within the payroll utility. So I'm just going to go into payroll now and select my employee. Okay, now you'll notice that in the payroll utility you are being prompted that you need to retrieve your RPNs, and this new employee will be included in that RPN check as well. So I'm just going to click on Update Employees here and check for retrieve RPNs now. Again, BrightPay will automatically connect to revenue systems and check for an RPN for the new employee. So this screen here, so this is telling me that revenue has not returned an RPN for the new employee. So what we're doing here now is requesting a new RPN for the new employee, and this in turn registers the new employment at revenue side. So all you need to do is click on Continue. Okay, and I'm getting my updates in. So this is doing a check for all employees on my pay period. So you can see that more than one employee, there are changes to be applied, but you can see my new employee is here as well. Their new details to be applied in this employment have fed down into the software. So I'm going to click on Apply Selected Updates. Okay. Cancel that. And if I go into the employees record here, you can see now that their revenue details screen has changed from emergency basis and now shows what was in the RPN retrieval there. Okay, so that employee is up to date. I then process my payroll as per normal, so working through each of my employees, etc. And I'm going to finalize the pay slips here. And I'm then prompted that I now need to submit my payroll information to revenue. So I'm going to submit my PSR. Send PSRs to revenue, click on Continue. And if I just go down and show you my new employee here, you'll see here now that the employee's start date is included in the payroll submission request, and that is going to inform revenue of the employee's start date for their systems. They'll update their systems on receipt. So I'm going to just simply click Send to Revenue. And that is my new starter processed and their start date reported to revenue there. Okay. Just to look at leavers then, so with leavers, again, as you may be aware, from the 1st of January, employees will no longer be required to issue a P45 to an employee and submit the P45 Part 1 to revenue. Instead, an employee's leave date will be reported to revenue in the final payroll submission made for the employee. So to process a leaver in the 2019 BrightPay software, what you are going to do is, in the pay period in which they're leaving, just make sure that all their final pay information is entered on their pay slip within the payroll utility. Before finalizing their pay slip, what you do need to do though is access the employee record. Okay. and you need to enter their leave date. So you're going to be entering their leave date before you finalize their pay slip. So I'm going to enter their leave date by going into employment here. I'll say that they're leaving on the 15th of January here, and save changes. Okay. I'm going to go back into payroll. I would make sure that all my employees' pay information is as it should be for the pay period, and I'm going to finalize pay slips here. Okay. As always, I'm going to get the prompt to submit my PSR to revenue on finalizing my pay slips. I'm going to click on submit to revenue, send PSRs to revenue here. Okay. Click on continue. And if I just scroll down to the employee who is leaving, okay, you'll see that their leave date is being reported in that final PSR submission for them, and that will notify revenue at their site that that employee has left your employment. So very, very seamless now. It's probably an easier process than before. So I'm going to just click on send to revenue. And revenue are now in receipt of the pay data and the employee's leave date for that pay period. Okay. So that's processing starters and leavers. Just to cover now with you if you need to make any corrections. So just one important note about corrections. Now, under POA modernisation, revenue do instruct that payroll records and submitted payroll submission requests should always match what was actually paid to employees at the time of payment. So in terms of employee payments, users should only be changing past records where they differ from what was actually paid. So maybe where the employee has received a physical amount, but your payroll is showing a different amount. That's where they would expect a correction to be made. In the event that an employee has been underpaid in a previous pay period, but the payroll software reflects that underpayment, then revenue would then advise that you should make this correction in the next payroll run that you perform. And likewise, if an employee has been overpaid in a previous pay period, but the payroll reflects that overpayment as well, then the next pay period should be used to recoup the overpayment rather than you reversing back your payroll to amend in that manner. If, however, as we've just mentioned there, the employee has received a different amount to what your payroll reflects, then of course you can reopen pay slips and make the necessary correction to a previous pay period. To do that, in the payroll utility, if we just select the employee here, on the menu bar at the top, you have the option to reopen pay slips. I'm going to click on reopen pay slips there. And all you need to do here is select the employee or employees that you wish to reopen and make a change to. Okay, so I'm going to just say that it's my employee here. Click on OK, and that reopens their pay period for amending. I make the change. So for example, say his gross pay should have been 500, for example. Okay, and I re-finalize the pay slip up after making my amendment. Now, when you reopen and refinalize pay slips, BrightPay will ask you how you would like to handle the pay slips going forward. If you were only going back to a pay period to make a specific change, but you wish to retain any amounts that you've entered after that period, then you will just use the option here to maintain the previously used items and settings. Alternatively, if you've gone back to a pay period and you wish to reset all pay items going forward from that point on, maybe the change you're making needs to be applied then to future pay periods and you wish that new figure to come through, that new pay item to come through, then you can reset the items and settings here. So choose accordingly to your requirements there. So I'm going to click on OK here. Okay. You'll now see that BrightPay is prompting me that I now need to send a correction PSR. So where you have already submitted an original payroll submission request to revenue and it has been received by revenue, Then when you do reopen the payslips back and make a change, you now need to report that amendment to revenue. So what BrightPay will do is it will automatically create that correction submission for you. And you can see I'm being prompted to do that here. So I'm going to click on Submit to Revenue, and I'm going to click on the option to now send my correction PSR. Okay, select the employee, click on Continue. The screen here will just detail what's included in the submission for you, and you're going to send to revenue here. Okay, and the correction submission has been accepted by revenue. Okay, just something to note as well, if you do go back more than one pay period, if I just pop back, say, to period 2 here and reopen payslips for an employee. Yeah. Okay. If I make a change and finalize the payslips here, okay, I'm prompted to send my correction submission for this pay period. Okay, that's been accepted. When I go into the next pay period, so if I need to refinalize a further pay period and I make a change to that pay period as well, finalize again. A correction submission will be needed for that further pay period as well. So for every pay period for which you make a correction, make sure to send the periodic correction submission as well if required. I'm just going to submit this to revenue. Okay, and we're now back to the current pay period. In the event that you finalize a pay period and you subsequently open a payslip or payslips for employees, but you have not yet submitted the payroll submission request to revenue for the pay period that you're reopening, then any amendments you make will flow through to that PSR still outstanding. So in that instance, no correction submission would be required. Okay, just to finish off, I just want to talk a little bit about the revenue payments utility here. Now, with the introduction of POA modernisation, the employer P30 return has been discontinued with effect from the 1st of January 2019. Revenue instead will now issue you with a monthly statement based on the periodic payroll submissions you are making. And this monthly statement will be in line with each tax month. The statement of account that they will issue each tax month will be available to view within your Ross account by the 5th day of the following month. And the monthly statement that they are going to issue you with will show a summary of the total liability due to them. And it will give you an individual breakdown of liability for income tax, USC, PRSI, and LPT. Okay. Now, in terms of payment due dates, it is important to note that payment due dates for employers do remain unchanged under the new system. So if you have been a quarterly or an annual remitter, for example, in previous tax years, you will remain on that schedule in 2019 as well, unless, of course, revenue instructs you otherwise. Okay. So just to assist with reconciling the monthly statement that you receive from revenue each tax month, we do have the revenue payments utility in the software here. Okay, that you can access at any time. Now, to assist you in reconciling amounts within the software with those on the monthly statement issued by revenue, first of all, we have the finalized totals report in the revenue payments utility. And this is going to give you a breakdown of each tax month. So first of all, it's giving you totals, as you can see on screen, of my submissions to date, which fall in each tax month. I can expand each month there just to see what the individual breakdown of figures are. Okay, and again, I can just use this as a reconciliation tool with the monthly statement that I have received from revenue there. Okay, you can also use this report here just to I suppose make a note of the amounts you're paying to revenue. So if you are a monthly remitter, you might just want to come in here every month and just make a note of the amount you've paid them and also the payment date that you've made the payment on. So just for example here. Okay. Another report in here is the revenue reconciliation report. Okay, and this actually, again, will connect with revenue systems. And what this report does is it retrieves a breakdown of the total amount of taxes that revenue have on record for each tax month for you. This is useful as a comparative tool in case of anomalies between revenues records and those within the software, although that should be very, very rare, to be honest. Okay, and you'll see here that the software will subsequently display on screen for each tax month the breakdown of taxes from your finalized pay slips, also the breakdown of taxes from submitted PSRs, and then the breakdown of taxes which the software has retrieved from revenue, so which are on record with revenue for you there. So again, a comparative tool for you just in case there's any discrepancies and things like that. Both the finalized totals report and revenue reconciliations can of course be printed, exported or emailed as required. Okay. That just about covers everything I wanted to show you in this webinar. Just one last point which we can't stress enough, but please, please, please do take backups of your payroll data on a regular basis, just in the unlikely event of a PC crash or breakdown. A backup of your payroll data can be done at any time. We always recommend maybe after you've updated your pay period or at the end of a session as you're closing out the software. And to do so, you're going to go to File, Snapshots, and create a snapshot. So you can browse to ideally like a USB key or some kind of external drive or a cloud environment. I'm going to pop mine into Payroll Backups here, click on OK, and create snapshot. So in the event that you have a computer failure for whatever reason, then you do have a backup of your payroll data that you can bring back in seamlessly there. Just to finish then, I just want to point you towards some further guidance. So on our website, we do have online help documentation. While in the software itself, if you press F1 on your keyboard, this will open up the online help for you. So do have a browse around there. There's a lot more information there that I've been able to show you today, just so you can use the software to its full capacity. Also, we have a number of video tutorials, 2 to 3 minute videos that will show you the various functionality in the software. And then if you have any specific queries, please do avail of our email support. You can email support@brightpay.ie, or you can telephone us on the number on screen there as well. So many thanks for joining me on the webinar today. And so thanks very much and goodbye.